Adam Warlock can be one of the most frightening supports for the enemies to deal with, especially if they're playing Dive, and as somebody who has solo queued all the way from Bronze to Celestial while only playing Adam Warlock, let me tell you how to actually play him, along with the secrets that I use to get there. Let's dive into it, but first, just a reminder, there are less than 30 discounted spots left in the private coaching community, so if you want to stay on top of the meta and learn rivals from a top 500 solo queue player, click the first link below. Also, if you guys find that this video does help you, then there is a advanced walkthrough commentary that explains my Adam Warlock decision making live on the ottr dojo right now. Adam Warlock's primary fire, Quantum Magic, fires a hit scan shot that deals 60 damage on hit. The shot can headshot, which deals twice the amount of damage per headshot, which also shaves off a second of the cooldown from your heal, but more on that later. Your primary also has a pretty brutal damage fall off, where it only deals maximum damage up to 20 meters away, after which it ramps down to 60%, so 36 damage at 40 meters and beyond. The reload animation can be cancelled early with a melee or other ability if activated beyond this point, which is useful to make a habit of shaving off, especially with your heal, to make sure you optimize your actions per minute. Despite its rough damage fall off, since it is a hit scan, this will be one of your best tools to deal with flyers. All you have to do is point and click and they will die. The way the hit scan works could be compared to Hela, but if you have played Hela, then you know that it still somehow feels a bit different. That's because compared to Hela, Adam's primary has a significantly smaller hitbox than Hela's, or even most heroes in the game. In addition to that, it seems like the bullet travels from the right side of Adam, compared to most heroes where it seems to appear from their center of mass or so, and when you combine the two, then it makes hitting shots a bit awkward if you are used to the larger projectiles and being able to aim to the right of your enemies for the bullet trajectory to hit them. And since you can't really aim to the right of your enemies to have the bullet trajectory hit them as efficiently as it would have on other heroes, it might feel a little bit weird to aim with them. But this is easily bypassed by just aiming right on top of your target, and by being aware of it, your accuracy will go up a ton already. Additionally, keep in mind that Adam is a bit of a manlet, so hitting headshots will be awkward, especially with the weird bullet trajectory. I suggest experimenting against different heroes in the range to get a good idea of how you need to pre-aim or lead your shots to actually hit headshots with your primary, especially this very patch, now that high accuracy can crank up your healing by a ton. Adam's secondary fire, Cosmic Cluster, lets you charge up a burst of shots that deal more damage the more you charge it up for. Each shot deals 38 damage for an upwards of 190 damage for 5 shots if it is fully charged. Unlike your primary, the secondary fire is actually a projectile, and the projectile also has a significantly larger and more forgiving hitbox than the primary, meaning that if you are comfortable with leading it or if you're going for static targets, then compared to your primary, hitting it is actually significantly easier. Since the burst shots are projectiles, this also means that they are one of the many projectile abilities in the game that do not have any damage fall off, meaning that it actually deals way more damage against targets that are way beyond that very short primary damage fall off range. The Cosmic Cluster and your primary fire share the same ammo count, but you can still charge up to a full burst even if you only have one shot left in the magazine. Additionally, you can also start charging your cluster as an animation cancel after reloading as well. There is also a pretty good animation cancel combo that you can perform with both your primary fire and your secondary fire to help you deal with you being jumped. By holding your primary fire and then spamming your secondary fire right after the primary fire has fired, then you will burst out damage faster than just using either of the two. Again though, it is worth noting that this tech only works if the target is close enough, since it requires both hit scan aim and projectile aim at the same time, and with the changes this patch, I wouldn't really recommend using it unless you need a larger damage burst in a pinch. For example, if a tank or easy to hit target jumps in your face and you got no choice but to fight them, or if you need to burst on something stationary like Rocket's ultimate. Since the burst only does 190 damage at max charge, it requires you to follow it up with additional primary fire damage after the charge up if you actually want to burst down and kill squishies. You can shoot directly after the burst animation has finished, but before it has hit, so I normally line up the projectile aim, let loose to shoot, and then line up the hit scan aim to hit 1 or 2 more shots, which usually kills them depending on the range, if it was a headshot or not, and if they're receiving any healing. Since you are doing hit scan shots and projectiles at the same time, this also means that the damage should reach the target around the same time as well. While I normally try to use my primary as my main source of damage, I've found that finding ways to use your secondary as much as possible really optimizes your damage output. If you don't have a target to shoot at the moment, but you know that somebody's gonna appear in the next few seconds, then pre-revving the cluster lets you quickly hit them with burst damage when they do appear. I've made a habit of pre-charging when crossing new corners or when holding positions when I expect enemies to start popping out. Since the charge doesn't have damage fall off, this usually makes it the perfect tool to snipe anything over longer ranges, especially if you want to break placeables or shields that are just sitting around farther away. Certain things like most shields or Penny's Nest doesn't break from one burst, but it does a lot of damage along the way that can either be followed up with a few primaries or yet another burst. The charge breaks Namor's turrets in 3 hits, his Hulk powered up turrets in a full burst along with a primary, and Loki's runes in 3 hits. Additionally, it's actually a really good counter against certain heroes like Jeff and his ultimate. Once Jeff starts his swallow, you start holding your secondary and then just release it in the dead center of the circle where he will appear. With the right timing, you will hit Jeff for up to 190 damage, plus the potential additional shots from your primary, and with some help, that will kill him instantly. Adam's first ability, which is a lot better this latest patch, Avatar Lifestream, lets him snap his fingers and heal nearby teammates. The heal bounces, healing every teammate that it lands on for 95 health, while healing Adam himself for 35. If you look straight down when activating the heal, then it can bounce off of you, healing you for a total of 130 health before bouncing to the next teammate within range. The bounce doesn't hit you unless you aim straight down or into cover, and it will always seek any teammates in range, with the priority of healing the lowest health teammate first. The Avatar Lifestream can bounce up to 2 times per cooldown, and while it has a cooldown of 6 seconds, you can actually shave off 1 second off of it by hitting a headshot. Generally speaking, due to your animations and attack speed, this means that you likely will have a new livestream every 3 to 4 headshots, depending on how accurate you are and how long you take between shots. Hitting placeable things with a headshot hitbox, such as Loki's clones or even Hela's ultimate, in the head will also refund some of that cooldown the same way. As such, in addition to usually being the right move anyways, taking care of the Loki clones yourself will go a long way. In some cases, if you are soul bonded, you can even duel Helas that are using their ultimate, assuming you keep hitting her in the head and keep healing yourself in between, though this usually only works for maybe 3 or 4 shots from the Hela before you end up dying if you are the only one shooting her. If you're consistently hitting headshots and you are getting your livestream back in time, then I normally would suggest using the heal dynamically and manage your cooldowns in a way where you always try to have 1 charge available, but then use that second charge whenever you get it to top up your own teammates. You will get more value from only healing when your teammates are critical health, but if they don't get critical health that often, and you're just dishing out headshots left and right, then you're gonna end up leaving a lot of heals that you could have had on the table. If you aren't consistently getting those headshots off, then being a bit more conservative with the heals is usually the play. Since the heal bounces, if I have a teammate on critical health, but who is out of line of sight, but there is another teammate who is closer or within line of sight with them, like say they're around a corner, then I heal the teammate that is in between us and let the bounce do the rest, since it has a 20-meter range per bounce rather than from Adam. Adam Warlock's next ability, Soul Bond, is practically a mini ultimate with a pretty long cooldown. Activating the Soul Bond creates a bond between Adam and any nearby teammates within 15 meters, and as long as the teammates stay within range, Adam and those teammates will be sharing all incoming damage, divided up by the amount of teammates. Additionally, all teammates that are affected by the Soul Bond will receive a passive healing of 15 health per second. Since the bond has a cooldown of 40 seconds, knowing when to and when not to use it is a must. Now, Marvel Rivals is a dynamic game, so there's never going to be a black and white time where you should or shouldn't use the Soul Bond, but I have found that the following are a pretty good indicator of what to look out for. So, when do you use the Soul Bond? First and foremost, I love using the bond for that first fight of the match, especially if you are rushing in and deathballing the enemy team. The health advantage that the bond gives us will generally give us enough of an advantage to take the fight. The key here is not using the bond too early, where you end up missing out on potential value, but also not too late, where your teammates are too low and about to die to actually give you any value. Generally, I have found the most success activating the bond when we're about to take a lot of pressure, and we are about to take a lot of damage, or a little bit of damage is starting to come in. It can also be considered sort of a mini support ultimate as well, and using it to counter certain enemy ultimates will go a long way. No matter the ult, if you use your bond right when the damage is about to hit, then you will get a ton of value out of it. The bond is also usually a must-have if you're trying to perform a big ultimate. We're going to cover the ultimate more in a little bit, but if you know that you most likely will use your ultimate this very fight, then keeping the soul bond off of cooldown and ready to use will let you follow that res up with the bond to survive the enemies from swarming you after going for that very res. As for when you shouldn't use the soul bond, there are a few very common bad bonds that I see costing ADAM players team fights and even games. First, obviously, you almost never want to use a soul bond in conjunction with any other big ults unless your support ults, for whatever reason, won't be able to save you from that incoming damage. This usually applies to one-shots such as Magneto's ultimate, Black Widow, or Hawkeye's picks, and, you know, stuff like that. Generally speaking though, it is worth noting that if a one-shot ability with huge area of effect damage, like say Iron Man's, hits you and all of the other people inside of that bond, then you will all still die. Especially as the bond at most can offset 250 damage per target. You should also not use this for any type of healing. You have your bounce heal for this, and you usually have another support that should be able to pick up the slack if healing is missing. Focus on saving the bond to save your entire team and get a free win, not just to heal up that one person because your heal happens to be on cooldown, or if you get a little bit nervous. Also, this might be obvious, but if you manage to win a fight, then you need to stop yourself from using the soul bond. If you can tell that a fight that you're planning to bond is going to be in your favor, where you're maybe 1 or 2 people up, then you should consider not actually using it. This allows you to have it for the next fight, where you might actually need it instead. There is a balance to strike here, where you want to use it where you need it, never use it if you don't. Which is simple to say, but ultimately it comes down to game sense and limit testing what works and what doesn't. You're gonna be doing a lot of really bad bonds before you figure out which ones that are actually good, but hopefully all of these should give you a good idea of what you should and shouldn't look out for. Additionally, just an interesting interaction you should be aware of, if you're playing against an Emma Frost, you have to be really careful about this. If you soul bond into an Emma Frost, then she can charge her primary fire and outgoing damage into a laser at an incredibly fast rate, as every teammate that you have hit with your bond counts as an additional person that she is hitting, which means that if you have bonded your entire team, then she can charge her primary up to 6 times as fast as she would otherwise. Adam's passive ability gives him the ability of second life. After you die, Adam can finally fly around and decide to either respawn, in which case he respawns with full health after a brief animation, or cancel the cocoon. Canceling the cocoon doesn't actually put it on cooldown, and since your respawn timer starts when you die and become a ghost, canceling it after enough time actually lets you respawn instantly. Since the ghost is visible to your enemies, sometimes they might chase the ghost if you are flying around. Since your respawn keeps sticking whether you are in ghost form or not, taking the additional time to fly around and scout around while respawning might give you some vital information. For example, maybe you'll learn where Rocket set up his BRB, where there are turrets or some flanker or whatever. It also might have the added benefit of sometimes confusing the enemy team and making them chase you, which makes them force time they could have spent on setting up or scouting as well. It is worth noting that after activation, your ultimate still works when you are within ghost form, so if you get killed when using your ultimate, then you can still fly around and get to your teammates to revive them, though generally speaking, this is a pretty niche use case. Normally when it comes to using this for self-revive, it makes the most sense to use the revive behind walls, mid-air, or on high grounds, especially if the enemy team doesn't have any abilities to really reach you or deal with you. Additionally, sometimes if I do get picked as an Adam, then I will take some high ground or spots that I literally couldn't reach otherwise, like a cool tower or something, just to get a great off angle, which can make it hard for the enemies to kill me and give me a free angle on the enemy team. Most of the time, you won't really get much value out of your passive unless you use it to get it back after dying first. If the rest of your team is dying, then in most cases you are usually better off just dying and going next. Adam Warlock's ultimate, Karmic Revival, lets him revive any nearby teammates. Activating the ultimate places a zone where all your teammates are returned to with 30% of their maximum health, assuming they are within range. You can step out of the zone to get closer to them, which then revives them where you activated the ultimate. Any teammates that die after you have activated your ultimate will be respawned inside of that zone up to 1 time each. If your ultimate is available, then any teammates that are within the range has to portrait spark like this, so you'll know how many teammates you can get in one ultimate off rip. During the casting of your ultimate, you are completely unstunnable, so you could actually use it if you're getting targeted by something like a Jeff ultimate, especially since if he yeets your other teammates off of the map, then they will just respawn back on your ultimate. Additionally, spinning around really fast is useful here, since the animation bends your head down a little bit, which will make it harder for the enemies to hit you. Their ultimate has a lot of use cases, but there are a lot of conditions involved. For example, you can absolutely hide and bait your own team to get a big res out as an Adam. The only issue is that the revive needs to be really far back so the enemy team can't destroy your teammates when they come back with that 30% of their health. If the ultimate is in a risky position, then you need to use another support ultimate just to keep you all alive when you come back. If you have a good team coordination, then you could use this as a way to mess with the enemy's ultimate economy, which you have covered more extensively in a seminar over at the ottr dojo, by the way. But in short, for the sake of this video, If you let your enemy team invest ults into a fight while you don't, and then revive your teammates and fight for real with your ultimates afterwards, then that either forces the enemies to either invest even more ultimates into the fight or potentially lose it. If you revive 1 or 2 teammates, then the healing from Adam and your potential other supports is going to be fine. I normally prefer this strategy, especially in solo queue. So if a teammate gets picked, just pop your revive and get him back. This is especially useful if you traded teammates where your team got 1 kill and their team got 1, since you will be the team to end up with 1 up on the enemy team. You can also pop a revive right before a fight starts if you don't think you'll get a chance to either hide for the revive or pop that ultimate in the middle of the fight. That being said, this is risky, since you are wasting a lot of your revive window. So it only works if you're confident that it'll be the only way that you can get it off. You can also just hide and use it when you see that your teammates are right about to die, in which case it'll be a little bit less risky to pull it off. In certain situations, you can actually pop your res when standing in the middle of a friendly support ultimate, but keep in mind that this one is very risky if the enemy team does have a one-shot that can outdamage their heals. For example, let's move on with some important not to use cases. Never use your ultimate when enemies are right on top of you unless you have somebody to defend you, and even then you need to have a way to get your teammates to full health, otherwise they're just gonna die again immediately and everyone will hate you. Never use your ultimate when Winter Soldier is using his own ultimate or if he has it available, and be very careful about using your ultimate when the enemies have big area of effect damage ultimates. I could go on listing every single one, but I think you get the gist of it. At the time of this video, Adam Warlock has a team up with Mantis and Star-Lord. In addition to giving him a small seasonal bonus, this also gives Mantis and Star-Lord the Regenerative Cocoon passive that Adam has by default. This leads us into something that's called a rest comp, which is really strong and really annoying. Going through the intricacies of the rest comp might actually be really hard without making this video really long, but in short, it makes it near impossible to dive you, since it costs enemies so much to get the pick that immediately gets undone. The rest comp is typically a free support composition, usually with a main healer with a lot of heals, like Luna, or even Rocket with that added bonus of another rest if you really want to cheese it, that lets you stagger out fights near indefinitely. If you guys want to, we can do a more in-depth explanation of this comp in a future video, or maybe in a dojo seminar, but just let me know in the comments. Generally speaking though, you're gonna want to try to force that rest comp as much as possible, because this is where Adam shines the most. It saves your teammates if they make mistakes and lets you get the most out of Adam Warlock's kit at all times and perform at your best. As for how you should position and situate yourself with an Adam, generally speaking, playing near your backline, your other support, and the rest of your team will be key. You are able to shut down several dangerous combos such as Spider-Man's or magics with your snap heal or even your bond, which you can get the most value of by just being close to your team. Every once in a while, taking a bit of an off angle is fine too. This can let you catch enemy flankers off guard and maybe even secure a pick on their supports. Due to your cooldowns and the range of your heal, you will usually be able to move around on the flanks while still providing value to your team. Just keep in mind that if you are playing on the flank, then this puts pressure on your other backliners, so this only works if they are safe and uncontested. Obviously, unless you're going for picks, focusing high danger targets that are a threat to you and your backline will be key. Ideally, you want to focus the squishy duelists, as you can take them in a burst and a few shots, or just a few shots in general. But if your backline needs more healing, then you can also shoot the tanks for easier headshots. When it comes to what heroes you want, playing as Adam means you more often than not will need another 2 healers to make the most out of it. This doesn't mean you always will need 2 other healers, but in the current meta, it is a must. And the lack of defensive, ultimate, and consistent healing will put a lot of pressure on the rest of your team, even if you play perfectly. Otherwise, if you only have 2 supports in total, then the rest of the heroes on your team have to have very solid self-peeling or sustain through bonus shields, as that goes a very long way. As for Adam's weaknesses and bans, I wouldn't say that there are many must bans just to make this guy viable, but looking out for high damage compositions is very important here. Certain heroes like Winter Soldier, as I mentioned previously, does pose a real threat for you as an Adam and your ultimate, and while some heroes with high burst damage can counter you, especially since you don't really have any means of protecting yourself, they can also be dealt with by using Soul Bond or just your healing snap just as well. If you aren't playing triple support, then you also want to look out for when the enemy team has compositions or heroes that deal a ton of damage over time. Typically, this means spammer heroes like Squirrel Girl or Punisher or something like that, as they will force your heals out and your team will fall apart from the lack of sustained healing because Adam's healing is on cooldown pretty damn fast. As for settings, there's no magic Warlock crosshair that magically helps you hitting shots. It just comes down to grinding it out with whatever crosshair is comfortable for you. Yeah, that's how you too can play Adam Warlock. I hope it helped, and if you want to get even better at Marvel Rivals, check out the video on the screen and consider joining the dojo to get really good. Thank you for watching, and see you all next time. Peace out.